What's going on, Soul Tribe? I salute the divinity in you, and welcome to my channel, Alchemist. Justin here, ready to feel the way through these energies because we got an interesting mix with the lunar shenanigans there. It kind of starts off with we start off in the red, kind of on a tough one there. Then it kind of like balances out. Like we're still in this kind of energies of extremes right now, where we're still kind of got that Mars Saturn opposition going on, the Venus Jupiter conjunction still kind of there's still things are separating. So it's like the dust is still starting to settle. So it's going to be kind of a bit of a roller coaster. We're going up, it kind of plateaus a little bit, we're going up a little bit, and then kind of hits a wall there at the end. But it's fine. We're going to get through this thing. But if you're new here, again, my name is Justin. And one of the things that I do on this channel is talk about the lunar shenanigans. And it just goes over the moon astrology, what sign it's in, what phase it's in, when it happens to be going void of course, and the aspects that it'll be perfecting over this period of time, and just how to feel through these energies when we're working with the moon. Because the moon's so closely tied in, is the busiest luminary, just going around and going around. And it's nice to be in the flow of the moon there. It really kind of helps us to navigate through this space. And I'm going to be covering the week of, let's go ahead and transition here. I'm going to be covering the week of August 12th through the 18th here. So let's go ahead and jump into this thing here. Let's not jump too fast because, again, we're starting off a little bit of red. We got on the 12th of August. The first thing, we start with the moon moving from Pisces into Aries, and that's going to happen at about 3:33 a.m., and that's Pacific time. And if you're watching this here, I have, as you see here, you got the moon just freshly entered into Aries. And when you think about Aries, it's that initiator. It's ruled by Mars. It's the cardinal fire sign, active in nature. And so this is, typically this is a really kind of energized moon, really kind of getting going there. But right after the moon enters into there, its first aspect is going to be a conjunction with Saturn that's still retrograde. And when you think about a conjunction, it's a fusion of energy. So the feelings and emotional aspects of the moon are being fused with those sort of like cold, sort of distant, heavy energies of Saturn. And so this could be maybe a feelings of kind of just like feeling just the weight of the responsibilities, all the things, whether they're thinking about the bills, the state of the world, the whatever, maybe there's something with plumbing, maybe there's something with whatever the challenge is. It could just be feeling that thing is just like really kind of weighing down on the spirits. And then on top of that, if that wasn't enough, then after that the moon's going to be forming an opposition with Mars. And now in opposition, it's like quite literally the opposite here. It's when you have the planets are in opposite signs, as you see here, the moon in Aries and Mars in Libra. The one kind of nice thing about this is that, the moon is being witnessed by Mars, which is helpful, but it's still a tough aspect with the opposition because there's this back and forth, maybe there's this need to, this thinking that like, oh, I have to move forward, I have to do this thing, like you have to do all of the things, but then that pressure from Saturn is just like, how though, and then with Mars, maybe it gets into this sort of like hopelessness, you kind of think yourself into a bit of a spiral there with Libra, just kind of going back and forth and then initiating without thinking or doing just sort of like kind of reckless, kind of compulsive things when we're thinking about the cardinal energies. So with all this little pocket, it's a little intense there, kind of starting things off there, but at least it sort of smooths out a little bit towards the end because then the moon forms a trine with Mercury here, who's at about 4 degrees 19 and just freshly direct, having been in that retrograde for a while there. So Mercury's still slow, but I think that this can be an opportunity with the trine that creates this flow, this sense of harmony, this ease, this sort of goodness that comes through. And so this could be a time where, you're in this sort of intense oppositional stuff, this conjunction energy, and it's like, okay, I have these things. Let me try to, like, where do I start? Like, let's just pick something and start first. Like just start. This can be an opportunity to kind of get organized there, to try to, now again, not tackle all of the things, but come with a balanced approach. Weigh your options. Like what makes, let prioritize things. And then I think when we, just if I didn't mention, we're in that kind of waning gibbous phase there, so the light is starting to lessen from the moon there. But it's like as soon as we get into or get out of that energy. The next aspects that the moon is going to be forming is some really lovely ones. We have squares with both Jupiter and Venus, who are still, like they're separating, but are still in that conjunction phase, or in the house of in the sign that the moon rules. So there's that reception that's there. So that's really nice. This could be that sense of feeling a little more regulated after all this stuff. Things are finally trying to return back to normal. There's a sense of familiarity, a sense of like, okay, now I think I'm getting my groove after, again, where with all of these intense, like, kind of oppositions, we had it heightened with the full moon, and then, with that station from Mercury, it was just a really kind of heavy little pocket there for a little bit. And again, even that conjunction that was happening with Jupiter and Venus, which, by the way, I actually had just posted a picture of that not too long ago, and you should still be able to see it depending on your time. I got up around, like, I had set an alarm for about 4 a.m. Pacific time, and there they were, Jupiter and Venus. I mean, just front view. Venus was, I mean, just brilliant. And I mean, Big Papa, I love Jupiter. So get out there and see that stuff. That is a different, and even if you happen to be up, either this would be a late night, or well, I mean, just be a late night around, like, I think it was around maybe like midnight, 1 o'clock. Saturn was out. Saturn was out. You could see, I even had got a picture of, you could see its rings. It was some good stuff. I'll probably post a picture of that one there too. So go out there and just see that astronomy. That's really, really incredible stuff, and it gives you a different feel for how beautiful that energy, that conjunction was. I think that there is, even though there was a lot of tense things that were happening, even with the squares, because that's when the planets or the celestial bodies are 90 degrees apart from one another, and there's this energy of needing to move. Maybe there's some challenges, some stagnation that's needing to be addressed, but once those things are done, it's going to lead to the sense of alleviation, like this sense of when we get to that moon trining the sun here at about 21 degrees, this could be feeling now like, okay, a little more yourself, a little more like kind of motivated with that fire energy that you had between the moon and the sun there. So yeah, just some things to think about with that one. And oh, by the way, this would be one too to kind of pay attention if you have a lot of cardinal placements. This if you have a lot of cardinal placements, this energy has been just kind of activating the cardinal signs. For sure, this conjunction actually happened pretty close to my sun placement, which was really nice. But yeah, this opposition, what was it doing? Oh, actually, it was forming some pretty okay stuff there. I don't have a lot of cardinal placements, so that's that's actually a bonus. But if you do have a lot of cardinal placements, I'd be paying attention to what's been going on. Get a footing in this. Figure out how you can get that sense of balance back there. Because then we get into Jupiter Day, the 14th of August, and now we're getting ready to move from Aries into Taurus, which is lovely, at about 6:22 a.m. And again, that's Pacific time, still in that waning gibbous phase here. But now the moon is exalted. She's chilling, raised up. Because, when we think about Taurus, they're ruled by Venus. And so that already, too, gives the moon and Venus this sense of mutual reception, which is really nice. But Taurus is the fixed earth sign and the receptive or yin in nature. And this is where the moon is really grounded, where the moon is in tune with nature, where it's tuned with its environment, and just really kind of feeling in this flow, really kind of taking things at nature's pace, kind of understanding, just in creating things and that nurturing things. I love when the moon is in Taurus. And after it enters Taurus, it's shortly after, like about 8 hours later, will form a square with Mercury. And actually, let me pull up, while I'm thinking about that, I can pull that time up for you there. Yeah, to make a form a square with Mercury around about 2:48 p.m. So that's something that's when that'll reach that culmination. But the moon, again, squaring Mercury, there could be this challenging of like, okay, now we're like what? We're about 3 degrees separating from this Mars Saturn opposition. So now this would be a time where it's just like, okay, this stuff, this has been maybe wildness with this being on top of the retrograde and again all that stuff. So now it's like, how do I get grounded in this? How can I get back in a sense of rhythm? It's kind of like after when you go from like a natural disaster, when the whole landscape is shaken from like an earthquake, a flood, whatever, and then nature resumes. Then it's like, how is that space being filled up again? So that's something where this moon square aspect could be kind of forming there, and that's kind of why I put this in a bit of a neutral one. It's going to depend on how you're able to ground in this. Doing some paying attention to maybe how you're eating during this period of time. Like, I'd be mindful of comfort eating with the moon in Taurus. Trying to do that in a sense, or just notice that if you have been feeling really kind of snacking things, maybe there's something that's not feeling grounded, that's not feeling regulated. So just something I think to just kind of pay attention to. But otherwise, this is for the most part, a pretty nice kind of energy there, especially as we move into the next day, which is a Venus day, the 15th of August. And we're still in that moon in Taurus, and we're getting ready to get to the last quarter phase. That'll be the last aspect that's forming. But now we get to where that aspect is really kind of culminating between Jupiter and Venus, which is the sextile. And sextiles are where the planets are about 60 degrees apart from one another here, as you see here, the moon and the two benefics by whole sign here. And they can create this sense of opportunity, this constructive, creative kind of thinking, this problem solving when you work with sextiles, but they take some initiative in order to get that beneficence, especially from these two there. So, if we're wanting to find this grounded state, again, just a little bit of work, asking for help. This could be kind of coming to good kind of union sort of energy, kind of coming together there. And this is something too to pay attention if you happen to have a lot of fixed placements. That's going to be Leo, Aquarius, or Scorpio or Taurus. Then just kind of pay attention to how this moon is kind of activating in your chart there. But yeah, this one's kind of a nice day. And then we get to that kind of last quarter phase, the last little chunk as the moon moves towards, as we get ready to get towards that new moon in Virgo. And something that I wanted to mention too, let me actually double check here, but we're actually getting ready to get into eclipse season here soon. Yeah, I think it was when the sun, it's getting closer. We got about a little bit more. We'll probably talk about that next week as the sun gets ready to move into Virgo. Be around 29 degrees, but we're getting closer to that. So just some things as we get ready to wrap up this lunar cycle here. But then we move into Saturn Day, the 16th of August, and we have another movement here. The moon is going to move from Taurus into Gemini at about 9:01 a.m. and again, that's Pacific time. And now we're in that getting towards a waning crescent phase, and the moon is forming some softer aspects. It's more, again, it's nice because at least it's easier conversations with the malefics, but it's still the malefics that we're talking with. So it starts off with the sextile with Saturn. Saturn's overcoming in this one. So if you're feeling any sort of like burdens or any sort of challenges, anything that's maybe some sort of delays, maybe seeing if there's someone that can help you move some things along or help you to, just some sort of assistance, maybe kind of help you move some things along there. That would be one way to kind of work with this. And look at that too, even just like moon sextiling Mercury, communication, talking about this thing, problem solving, collaboration. This would be really kind of great for things, for any sort of thing. Maybe you have some challenges around the house. Maybe you're wanting to, you're looking for recommendations for courses. Maybe you're looking for ideas for travels, whatever this might be, maybe for homes. But whatever this is looking into that. And I think as soon as you take that initiative with that moon trining Mars, then things can really get moving. Things can really get just kind of flowing there. Because the nice thing too with this moon entering into Gemini, let's talk about that for a little bit. Gemini is the mutable air sign, and they are active or yang in nature, and they are like the communicators. That's where the air is flowing, that mutable air. So this could be where if things have been kind of heavy, then this could be some way to kind of lighten things up, to do some kind of critical thinking, to help get some sort of breakthrough in this, so that you can meet that, kind of help move that whatever challenge along a little bit more there. And I pay attention to, if you have a lot of mutable placements, that's going to be Virgo, Sagittarius, Pisces, or Gemini, because the moon's going to be kind of forming aspects with those there. So kind of just kind of tune in there. But Yeah, overall kind of a mixed day again, just because it's working with the malefics. And that energy is going to kind of carry over into Sunday, the 17th of August. The moon's not going to make it. I got the moon about halfway here through Gemini there. And we're just kind of carry that energy just through whole sign, just kind of thinking about any sort of challenges that we're moving through, kind of trying to moving the needle as much as we can as we're kind of working with these aspects here. And then we last day, then we get to a bit of a delay there, because on Moon Day, the 18th of August. First off, before the moon moves into Cancer, while it is still in Gemini, it's going to form a sextile with the Sun, and for me, when the moon is sextiling the Sun, this is a time to just kind of go in and just see, like, okay, we've been going through this week, been going through this process. Where do I go from here? What feels right? What is the next kind of intuitive move that feels? What sort of inspiration, what sort of intuitive nudges are you feeling guided towards as you're figuring these things out? And then after that, the moon moves into Cancer at about 6 p.m. And this is nice because this is where the moon finds itself in its domicile. As you see here, if you're watching the video here, the moon just entering into his home sign. And Cancer, they are the cardinal water sign, receptive or yin in nature. And the moon is very in tune with the environment, just in tune with its emotions and the things that it's feeling. But that also means that it feels that weight because the first thing that it's going to be feeling is that square with, or the second thing that it's going to be feeling is that square with Saturn retrograde again. It's like really early, not shortly after the moon. It's like you just got home and then you were told that, just like hey, your fridge is out. So that's kind of what the moon is getting greeted with a little bit, and it's just like, well, at least I'm at home. At least I don't have to wait on somebody else to fix the fridge. Or you know what I mean? Like, it's something where it's like, okay, at least I'm taking care of this in familiar territory, as opposed to maybe doing it in someone else's place. If the moon was in like Capricorn, or maybe even in like its fall, the Scorpio. So, at least that's the kind of like the one sort of positive there. And again, it's not quite, the aspect is still pretty wide, but it's still co-present with the benefic. So Jupiter and Venus are there to help. they're going to provide some resources. They know a guy. They know a guy that's going to be able to fix this thing for like half the price. So love that. But that doesn't take away from the fact that the fridge is still broken. So that's on the light end. But yeah, this can be how this sort of like this moon squaring Saturn, could feel that you really could feel the emotions churning, even though the moon is strong here. Like, it's, you can still feel very emotional at home, so that's just something where it's learning how to deal with these challenges. Just like, instead of like, gosh, why does this always happen? It's like, you know what? Okay, I didn't even like that fridge anyway. I was ready to get rid of that thing. It was good. It wasn't keeping stuff cold enough. It doesn't even match the aesthetics of the place. Let's just get rid of it. Let's just get rid of it, part ways, and get one that actually has more drawer space too. So perspective is going to be kind of a big one with these energies, because it has been, I don't know if you've all have noticed, but it's been a very interesting pocket with all those kind of oppositions that we're going through. And yeah, it's been the energies are trying to get back in sync of things. And hopefully, I'm kind of looking at September. That's going to hopefully kind of pick things up a little bit. We'll have a couple tough aspects, but overall, I think we're some at least the biggest kind of hard thing is with that Saturn Mars opposition is starting to separate. So that's really nice, if nothing else. So, but yeah, that's all I got for you this week for the lunar shenanigans there. And if you want to see how this is showing up more in your chart more personally, just kind of work with these energies, or even want to get into working with either like natal astrology, or maybe you want to pick aside in sort of like elections or things like that, then down in the description box is a link to book a consultation with me. And if you have any questions, my email's down there as well, so definitely feel free to reach out. And then also, I have a link for one of the playlists is for Celestial News Weekly, which talks about where the sun and the other classical planets are located, what aspects they're forming, and how to most practically work with those energies. Get a more better feel if you wanted to. I go do a deeper dive as far as like how the Mars Saturn opposition would have showed up, or how the Jupiter Venus would show up, or what's going to be the next thing. What is Mercury direct going to be? That energy feeling like. So if you want to go more kind of into that, and so that's available for you as well. And then I have this little series that have about different celestial bodies in different signs in different houses, and just kind of my thoughts on that. Some things to kind of to just kind of work with, or things to think about as you're kind of meditating on your chart and how to work with your natal chart there. So that's available for you as well. And again, these energies, we're in a kind of a bit of a weird space right now. The moon with especially with Saturn and Mars being opposing one another, especially by whole sign. The cardinal placements are going to be, that transition is a little bit bumpy sometimes there. So there's going to be these tougher aspects, because we'll be getting, as we get into this one, our next one will probably be it'll be a square with Mars. So we're going to start off that week again, maybe a little bit of rockiness there, but it's like just adjusting to these new energies. So you just kind of tune into that and see how you adapt over this time period there. But yeah, until next time, stay mindful out there. You keep eyes on that moon. And this is nice. Actually, keep eyes on that moon, especially on the 18th, because that crescent moon is going to be getting really close to Jupiter and Venus. And I'll mention more about that as that comes up there. So that's going to be really nice. Have all those three lights in the sky, or the planets and the luminaries. So that's going to be really nice to see. So definitely keep eyes on that moon. And I will catch you on the next one. Moon Day.